Hello and welcome back, and thank you for choosing to listen to the How to Life podcast today. I am Dr. Laura Jaggett, and this is episode 45. Today I want to talk about the subject of personal accountability, and if you don't know what that means, you will by the end of this show. I want to start by asking you, when things go wrong in your life, what is your first thought? Bad luck? Why me? Do you blame something or someone else? That's usually our first thought, or maybe even our instinct. And it's logical because sometimes bad things do happen. The unwanted occurs, and we are taken by surprise and are sometimes left feeling very victimized. Does this sound familiar or normal even? What do you do when a situation like this happens? How do you react? I want you to take a moment and think about that. Do you tend to get carried away with the emotions of it, like get angry and seek revenge, or do you fall apart and allow the feelings of victimization to overtake you? Or maybe you're afraid and then you become fearful from that point forward. If you do tend to react like this, you're not alone. I would say that you're most likely in the majority because most people do this. And not just in negative situations. Things show up, sometimes good, sometimes bad, and they just react to it. They react to the condition. They're happy when they like the condition, or they feel negative emotion when it's something that they don't like. I call that living by default, just reacting to whatever you happen to bump into and not taking any control or ownership for what comes into your life. I find living by default very stressful. You can't help but feel that you're just a pawn in this world, a leaf blowing in the wind, subject to random events. If you look at life this way, then I can see how it would cause worry and stress because you don't feel like you have any control. But what if there was a way to get your power back? What if you can change the way you look at it? What if you could control your emotions to it? Detach from that knee-jerk reaction, and rather than say, why me? Instead say, how did I bump into this? How did I attract this into my experience? I know this may seem illogical. I didn't play a role in this. I'm an innocent victim. No one in their right mind would put themselves in harm's way or attract negative situations or people. Surely we would not put ourselves in these situations on purpose. Of course we wouldn't do it on purpose. But here's where personal accountability comes in. What if you could take a good look at yourself and consider that somehow you did play a role in this? It does take two to tango. And I'm not saying that you did anything wrong or you deserved something bad to happen to you. I'm not saying that at all. But was there something about how you were vibing that brought you in the same vicinity of a negative experience? It takes courage to look at a situation that you don't like and say, how did I get here? But that's the point. If you can say that, you are now taking action to live on purpose in the future. You're going to make choices on purpose and choose how you react to situations, good or bad, on purpose. I've discovered that accepting full responsibility for where you are in your life, no matter where it is the path to personal freedom, happiness, and contentment. I understand that this might be a concept that you're not familiar with. And if you are not, that is okay. But I want you to hear me out. If you can say, what was my role in this? You have just put yourself in a position of power. You cannot change what happened because it happened, but you can choose how you approach the next steps from that point forward. When you can recognize something about yourself that may have matched the low vibration of a negative situation or person you just encountered, that is a definite step toward becoming the master of your experience. I say we create our reality, either on purpose or by default, but doing it on purpose is so much more satisfying. Do you want to try it? Start with this. Take a good look at what's bugging you right now. For instance, do you keep attracting the same type of bad relationships into your life? Do you keep moving from one dissatisfying job to the next? Does it seem you can't seem to get a break? Do you feel it'll all get better if you could just leave your job or the relationship or move to a new city or a new house or be somewhere different? Or have you ever gotten rid of everything that you thought was causing your unhappiness, and for a while you felt better, thinking that you had removed yourself from a toxic situation, but then slowly the same thing happens again? Does this sound familiar? Why is that? Well, that brings us to the title of this podcast. You are the common denominator. What does that mean? It means that of all the moving parts of your life, the one thing that is constant and part of every scenario is you. You might think that if you don't like the way things are going, you can just leave. But guess what? You have to take yourself with you. And if you haven't cleaned up what's drawing all of these unpleasant things into your life, you're going to find the same things occur in the next job or the next relationship or the next city you move to. And I do not say these things to be harsh. This is actually a really good thing to realize, because then you can decide to change your point of attraction and take ownership of not only the bad, but the good that comes in your life as well. What does that mean, your point of attraction? To simplify, it's what you're putting out and what's coming back to you in return. And by the way, it is reciprocal and proportional. I've come to know this after trial and error in my personal experience. Rather than be thrown around by fate, I decided to take responsibility for what shows up in my life. And that meant I had to make some changes about me. I'm going to tell you the story of an experience I had that literally knocked some sense into me and got me to own up for everything that occurs in my life. A few years ago, I was in a very low period of my life. I was sad, I felt hopeless, I was depressed, and this went on for several months. I didn't have the tools back then to feel better. I didn't know how to get myself out of the rut. And I didn't realize that my mood and my vibe, what I was putting out into the world, was coming back to me. At that time, it just seemed like I was in a downward spiral, and I certainly didn't feel I had any power to change the direction of my life. So here's what happened. One day I was especially blue, and I got into a pretty bad car accident. And my car was totaled, and the other car was totaled. I realize now it was the expected ending to a truly depressing day. So when it happened, I had recently started looking into finding a way to improve my outlook. I had started reading self-discovery books and came across the concept of a gratitude list and taking responsibility for where you are in your life. I walked away from that accident and I decided to focus on what went right. Because even though a lot went wrong, there was a lot that went right. I had a car, and not just any car. I had a BMW that was designed to withstand an impact such as the one it had. Emergency vehicles and help came right away. I walked away injured, but alive. Friends and family were there to help me. I had insurance to cover all the damages to property and body. I had access to great health care, and on and on and on. And when I ran out of things that were at the top of my head, I would look for things to put on that gratitude list. Every day, I wrote about it. I wrote about the healing. I wrote about all the good things that happened. And it was not all sunshine. It was actually 5 aggravating months to get my car sorted out. And there was plenty of opportunity to focus on the delays and the excuses and the paperwork. But I just refused to focus there. And even though I couldn't control the time, I could control how I was feeling about it. And it got sorted out eventually. I think it even got done sooner because I was determined to be nice and thank everyone for their effort. And I started noticing that they responded to what I was putting out. It made me realize that my low vibration had attracted this accident and my higher vibration got people to work together and get things done sooner. It was a blatant example of how I brought the vibe to both situations. I was the common denominator. And what about the person who hit me? I have a pretty good idea that she was vibrating at the same level I was at the time of the accident. She was speeding and driving pretty aggressively. After the collision, she was hospitalized. She had a long, slow recovery that led to loss of her job, and she ended up filing for bankruptcy a year later. I know this because there was a lawsuit filed with the insurance companies, and that information was known. I think it's safe to say that she didn't clean up her vibration after that accident. Bad luck kept following her around. But was it bad luck? Is it bad luck if you keep finding the same situations happening over and over again in your life? Or things never seem to get better? Or chaos and drama seems to just follow you around everywhere you go? This was a really dramatic situation, but it really was the incident that changed my thinking and helped me take personal accountability for what was going on in my life. There have been other situations that, quite frankly, have sucked, but I took the skills that I had learned and I was able to move through with more grace and less pain. So the next time that there's a situation that shows up in your life that you really aren't enjoying, I want you to give this a try. Here's how you do it. Make a list of everything that went right and focus on that list. Focus on it as often as you can. Later on, when there's been some distance from the incident, take a good look at yourself and ask, what was going on with me when that happened? Those are the two big key components. Personally, I do my best to focus on all the blessings. And when I forget, because the experience is so much bigger, I keep rereading my gratitude list and look for anything to put on there. If you keep this up, I promise you will be pleasantly surprised at how many things you can add to your list daily. It will get bigger and bigger if you intend to see even the smallest positive. That is focusing on purpose. And as you give more of your active attention to what you like seeing, what you don't like will eventually peter out. So if you're thinking, what can I do right now to stop the momentum and start pivoting in a different direction? Here's what I advise. Try not to get too emotional about it. There will be emotion, but try not to let it control your reaction. If you can, take a few moments to breathe and collect yourself before you make any move. Have you ever heard the expression, when you're angry, count to 10? This is the same thing. This allows you to process a bit and decide what to do next on purpose. Fallout is usually not pleasant, so do what you must do to move through and beyond it. Negative experiences always have some things you have to attend to, so take your time, move through it, calm yourself before you take your next step so that you're in the best frame of mind you can be in when you make that next choice. The best thing to do to take your power back is quit blaming others. Just take them out of the equation. You can't control them anyway, so it's one less thing you have to worry about. And then as you go through your days, be aware of what you're putting out vibrationally. Focus on what you can control. If you do find yourself in a vibrational tailspin, shut it down as early as you can before it picks up too much momentum. Choose a different thought. If you can't consciously do that, then distract by changing your environment or what you're doing at the moment. Read a book, surf the web, talk with friends, listen to music, exercise, or my personal favorite, take a nap. Just change up the game plan. It won't happen overnight. It's a constant refining of yourself, and it takes practice and focus. But everything takes practice and focus. You're making a decision to be the architect of your life and not the victim of it. When something goes wrong and you can say, I did that, guess what? You can also say, hey, I did that, when it goes exactly right. That is true power. And disclaimer, if you do this, you may be at risk of being a happier person on a regular basis. You may find great relief in not trying to control others or situations. You may find that good things seem to be happening in your life a lot more than ever before. And when you bump into something you don't like, because it's going to happen, you are now going to have some tools to get through it quickly and with more grace than ever before. I wanted to talk about this topic because it was such a huge realization that changed my life for the better. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect and everything always goes right for me, but knowing what I know certainly has helped me acquire some amazing coping skills and gain a better perspective of life in general. Did this podcast pique your interest? I've done other podcast episodes that talk more in depth about some of the concepts mentioned here. First and foremost, episodes 2 and 28 talk about gratitude, which is the tenet of my life's philosophy. Especially in number 28, I actually have a wonderful conversation with the founder of the gratitude app, Pritesh Sankhe. That is one of my favorite shows. Episode 8 is about balancing emotions. Mental health therapist Taylor Hadley offers some tips on how to soothe and calm yourself. In episode 20, I talk about the importance of sleep and rest, which I find is in the top 3 most important things to help keep your balance. In episode 36, I talk about how to reset your emotions and therefore your point of attraction in order to get momentum moving in a different direction. And episode 37 is called Good Vibes Only. Cher Kretz talks about how to bring your best energy to every situation, thereby setting your point of attraction. You can find all the podcast episodes on your podcast player, or you can listen to them directly from my website, howtolife.com. The mominars that are featured on my YouTube channel, How to Life, can also be found on the website, so there are several easy ways to find my content. Thank you very, very much for supporting me and my show. My goal is to bring you all kinds of information to help better you as a person and therefore better your life. Please join me again next week for more good stuff. And for now, take care, everyone. Set daily intentions and see how your attitude and your mood can determine what shows up for you. It's so fun when you find your power. You are doing great. And you are great. You got this.